Right then, let's go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 37 of the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football Podcast powered by MK Battery. This season, MK Battery continue to do what they do best, supporting Powerchair Football at every level, from powering this podcast to fueling the National League streams. Their backing helps us bring the sport to more people than ever before, both on and off the court. My name is Ryan Sipple, and today's guest truly needs no introduction. Across more than 20 years in the sport, Jon Bolding has been the heartbeat of both Aspire PFC and the England national team, a leader, a serial winner, and one of the most respected figures in the game. He has over 400 league goals, countless domestic titles, and international honours, making him one of the most decorated players in the sport. He's captained England through triumphs and heartbreak, helped shape one of the strongest club sides in the world, and continues to set the standard for what excellence looks like in power chair football. And as we sit just days away from the start of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership, also with the World Cup year on the horizon, there's a huge amount to unpack. Jon, how are you, my friend? It's great to have you on the podcast.
I'm good, mate. Thank you for that nice introduction. It's nice to hear the accolades that I've had in the past.
My pleasure. I have to apologise for not getting you on to the podcast sooner, but your appearance fee isn't cheap, so we've been saving up over the last few seasons just to afford you.
That's all right. I'll let you off as long as I get that check.
Before we properly begin, I want to set the scene a little bit, because there's so much we could cover with you, from your journey into Powerchair football and all those early years of Aspire, your success with England, leadership, influence you've had on and off the court. It's been a remarkable career that's already cemented its place in the sport's history. But for this episode, I want to almost break it into two halves. One looking back at the past 12 months and one looking ahead to the 12 to come. Because right now, I'm sure you'd agree, it feels like we're sitting between two defining periods almost, reflecting on a season that tested you in just about every sense, while also anticipating an upcoming campaign that could shape what's next for both your club and country. The 24-25 season in its entirety was incredibly intense. Aspire were right in the mix for the Premiership title until the very end, eventually finishing third. You then travelled to Paris for the inaugural Club World Cup, finishing fifth. Just days later, you regrouped to lift the WFA Cup at St George's Park, adding yet another major honour to Aspire's history. And then came the WFA Nations Cup in Italy, a tournament that, of course, carried enormous expectation, with England aiming to defend their European crown while also securing World Cup qualification. It ended with a runners-up finish, still an achievement, but one that, knowing your standards, probably didn't meet what you or the group were striving for. We'll break down each of the elements for club and country across this episode, but to start us off, when you look back over the last 12 months, how do you assess the season as a whole?
Not the standards that, like you say, me and the team want to achieve. To be honest, one trophy is great. It's probably bottom of the list of the trophies that we could have won. Not obviously disregarding what trophy it was, because it was a great event and a great lead up to the final and winning at St George's Park is always a great feeling. But when you think about the league and obviously the Club World Cup, they're the trophies obviously that have a bigger regard in the wider world of football. The season itself, I don't feel we've done ourselves justice in every game, which obviously in the end cost us. Obviously coming third in the league is not nowhere near good enough for a team of Aspire. And the Club World Cup, again, it was down to fine margins. Fifth place makes it sound like we were shocking. But if it was for maybe a refereeing decision or not stupidity from me getting sent off, it could have been a whole lot different. So overall, it's kind of like not where we want it to be, but having a not great season and still coming away with a trophy, I think quite a lot of people would be proud of that.
Yeah, let's go back to the start, because rolling into the 24-25 season, you had just won the UEFA Champions Cup in Paris. So you no doubt began the season with huge expectations, chasing a league title, defending your place as one of the country's best sides. So let's start with the 24-25 National League campaign, the then Optegra Premiership, because for me, it was probably the most competitive season we've ever seen. In years gone by, I don't think it's unfair to say that by game week 5, the title race had almost always boiled down to either Aspire or West Brom. Yes, a few teams flirted with the title race, but rarely has anyone been able to sustain that challenge across a full season. But with last season, from the very first weekend, we had what I perceive to be 5 genuine contenders in Aspire, West Brom, Newcastle, Leeds and Teessides. And not just teams capable of taking points off each other, but sides playing with real identity and, more importantly, belief that they could win the ultimate award. It made for one of the most open, unpredictable races we've ever seen. Every fixture felt like it mattered. Every drop point felt huge. And the quality, certainly at the top end, was exceptional. For Aspire, you was right in that mix. You were pushing on all fronts, producing some brilliant football. And even though third place might not fully reflect the level of performance or ambition within the group, from the outside, I can say it's still a reminder of how good you are. When you look back on the 24-25 National League season, what stands out most about Aspire's campaign? I'm guessing, judging by your earlier answer, you just wasn't happy with where you finished because you're always aspiring to be something bigger, something better.
Yeah, exactly that. And we drop points in games that we would always want to win. Like we go into every game expecting to win. And so when we didn't, obviously that's a massive downside to obviously our performance on the day and the result itself. I think I can't remember, my memory's not great, so I can't always remember exactly the results that we dropped over the season, but I know obviously the 2 Teesside games cost us big time. Obviously there's 6 points there straight away. And to be fair, they deserve to win the league. And so when we lose to them and then they end up winning the league, it's kind of like, okay, fair enough, maybe we didn't deserve to win the league because of their performances. But like you say, we played some great stuff throughout the league season. And obviously Jon was coming in brand new. We'd obviously lost the experience of Brad. So it was balancing obviously the experience that Brad had to try and get Jon up to scratch with the way we play. His mindset, obviously he'd been in a team before where it was kind of fighting relegation year after year. And to come into our league, we don't go into a game hoping to draw or scrape a result. We go to dominate and win the game comfortably. So it was just trying to change Jon's mindset and obviously integrating into the team, which, as you can see, probably from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, the progression that Jon has made, obviously then made an impact on our team, and that then followed on. And obviously, you see in the cup final that the impact that he made. So it was kind of, you could call it a transition period for us, but regardless of whether it's a transition or not, coming third is not good enough for a team of who I manage.
We'll get on to Jon Dixon in more detail later, because there's a real story to get into. But to your earlier point about memory, you drop points to Leeds, to Newcastle, to West Brom, and of course those Teesside defeats. So my next question touches on what I said in the intro. In years gone by, that title challenge has really only ever been Aspire and West Brom. This time you had multiple teams sustaining it right through to the final weekend. How different did that feel, knowing there wasn't just one main rival, but potentially 4 sides capable of taking points of each other? On one hand, I'm sure it's frustrating and you've got to plan for a whole host of eventualities, but zooming out, what it represents about the development of the sport and the competitive nature of our leagues is really encouraging.
Exactly. At the beginning of last season, I said this is going to be the best league ever. And I think it ties into obviously how far the WFA has come as well. Like you could see the progression in the league, and the teams themselves have progressed so much that you go into the games now and you don't actually know who's going to win. Whereas 2-3 years ago, the scores were pretty predictable, or not the scores, the outcomes were pretty predictable. So, yeah, going into last season, we knew that every game was going to be tough. And obviously, you just reeled off the results that we dropped. It's kind of like those teams that we said would be around the top, we obviously didn't fulfill the results and get the outcomes. So we didn't really deserve to be anywhere near the top if we're not beating them teams around us.
When you analyse it now, what do you think made the difference for Aspire? Was it the fine margins, a few results that didn't go your way, or were Teesside just that much better?
Teesside were that much better, but also I blame myself. Well, kind of, obviously, you say we came off the back of winning the Champions League. I was a bit naive, I think. I went into the league thinking that if we play our football, we could just steamroll anyone. And that was soon found out when we got spanked by Teesside that we can't just do that anymore. And we do have to focus on more defending. And so fair play to Dan, me and him sat down and thought about ways that we can change what we do currently to defend differently. And we've done that halfway through the season. And we feel that we made a difference. And obviously we now use that going forward, that way of defending. And it is give us a bit more stability at the back. And so it then allows, once we do get the ball back, to do what we have been doing really well, and obviously counter-attacking and scoring. But I think it is that defensive standard that we weren't really fulfilling early on in the league, which again cost us coming towards the end of it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment. I know you were trialing and testing different players in different positions, most notably switching Tom Kelly and John Dixon. So no doubt that's something you were working on throughout the season, and you'll apply that for the upcoming campaign. Obviously, the conclusion of the National League led almost immediately into the inaugural Powerchair Football Club World Cup in Paris. Global tournament, the best teams on the planet, packed crowds, high quality streaming, the games that swung on the smallest of margins. I've said it on this podcast before, and I completely stand by it. For Aspire, it felt like a real case of what could have been a tournament defined by a couple of sliding doors moments, because the group stage performances from you were so strong. You competed with every team you face, and yet a few perhaps controversial decisions completely changed the picture and the outcome. So I agree with your point that fifth place finish is not representative of the football you played. Had those gone a different way, I genuinely think we could have been talking about Aspire finishing much higher than fifth. I recapped the competition as a whole with Charlie and said, had you not been sent off, had certain points gone your way, moments gone your way, I think you would have taken the momentum right through to the final. I thought you were that good. So when you look back on that now, do you see that week in Paris as one of experience and growth, or one that just got away? Because I imagine it's a really tough balance between being happy with your performances and frustration with the outcome, especially given that 12 months prior, you lifted the Champions Cup in the same city.
Definitely experience coming away from it, because like say, the decisions that were made, obviously me getting sent off and the disallowed goal, which we would have won the league game and put us through, and I believe we would have got to the final should that have happened. They're all put to one side, but I always said to the team, and I know people looking into Aspire and think, oh, if Jon's not playing, then they're just an average team. But I never believed that. I always believed that the players, if they believe in themselves, they've got the quality to play the football that Aspire are known to play. And me getting set off was, in a way, a blessing in disguise, because everyone knows how good Dan is on the wing. And I've loved Dan. I've seen him grow to the player he is now. And for me, he is one of the top players in this world. And to see him have to go into that game against Brian, who people would say is one of two best players in the world, to see him dominate and do what he'd done in that game made me so proud. And I think that gave him and the team belief and confidence in what I was always said to them about when I'm not in the team, they can still do it if they believe in themselves. And I think anyone that watched that game, to see what Dan done to, like say, probably a guy in Brian who's played it 10 more years, maybe more than Dan has, to see what he performed and to just concede that last minute goal, I felt for them all. And especially Dan, obviously being all the hard work that he put in. I feel that was a real turning moment in Aspire and Dan as an individual, to see, give him that extra confidence that I know he already had, but to know that he is at that top level now.
On that recap episode, Charlie and I said that who was our best individual performers and what was the best individual performance. And I absolutely went with Dan McClellan versus Grafto Vilnius-Dask. It was so complete. It was so mature. And as you said, it kind of gave me and gave others a vision what Aspire could look like in the future, what England could potentially look like in the future. It was such a good performance. So full credit to him on that. It didn't go your way, but take nothing away from some of the football you played, because for me, it was the best of the competition. And when you're assessing the teams that went through to the final, the two French powerhouses, in terms of attractive, fluent football, you was at the top for me.
Yeah, and that's what we always tried to do. And that's what we enjoyed doing. We enjoyed scoring good passing goals and some nice football. Like the dribbling goals over the line, great, they're goals, but they're not the goals that everyone remembers. And so, yeah, I'm glad we put on a show that people enjoyed and obviously got us results in some games and it didn't in others. But yeah, I'm glad we kind of put across our style of football and made people watch.
No, I agree. So that finished, and then almost without pause came the John Good Group WFA Cup final. Barely, 36 hours after the conclusion of the Club World Cup, Aspire were back in competition, different country, but no doubt the same demands. That turnaround would test any team mentally and physically. And yet what followed was one of the most complete controlled performances we've seen from Aspire in a final. It would be easy to dwell on the frustration of Paris, the sense of what might have been, but instead you regrouped, you refocused and produced the absolute perfect response to lift that trophy for the 8th time. Must have felt incredibly satisfying, not just for the silverware, but for the statement it sent out about Aspire's resilience to turn that frustration into success. How did that moment feel for you in the group, to park the disappointment of Paris so quickly, come home and deliver a performance of that standard on the biggest domestic stage that we host?
It was incredible. And I think the quick turnaround kind of didn't allow us to like rest on our laurels of losing obviously what we did in the Club World Cup or coming 5th. So it was kind of like travel home, that's our main focus, make sure we were getting home safely. And obviously even the journey home wasn't easy because John's car had broken down during the tournament. So it was arranging how John and his family were going to get home, and we had to meet John had to get in different cars with his parents to get home. So even the journey home wasn't the most easiest. So it was kind of like, once we got to St George's Park, it was kind of a relief that we'd all got there in one piece, and we could then focus on doing football that we do. And yeah, it was kind of from the outset, we kind of felt confident. West Brom, again, like us, didn't really have the greatest of Club World Cup, so we knew they were going there kind of a bit downhearted and stuff. So it was kind of like who was going to bounce back strongest, and thankfully we put on, everyone individually put on a great performance. And yeah, my boys Dan and John, they put on a performance that showed why they're getting up there with, well, obviously Dan's definitely up there the best. John's making progress to become a world-class winger. And so, yeah, the goals that we scored were ones that we're very proud of.
Just want to reflect on the WFA Cup. and its growth over the last couple of years, because it's become a real spectacle. Certainly that final. We have the showcase at Derby Arena for the quarterfinal and semi-finals, followed by that televised final at St George's Park on TNT Sports. From your perspective, how important has that evolution been for the sport? Does the visibility add a new kind of motivation or pressure for the players involved?
It's huge for our sport. My dream before I stop playing is to have our 5 national leagues televised on a channel somewhere, and to then have what we've got now, our cup final televised, is huge because it reaches people that don't even know the sport exists, and more importantly, people that are in a wheelchair that could play the sport. So to then be able to showcase the football that we play, and obviously other teams that have reached that final play, to entice those people into the sport is what we need. We don't want to get to a final and it's a boring 0-0 and there's hardly any passing. It just doesn't look good for the sport, and it doesn't look good for attracting people into it. So as far as I'm concerned, all of the finals that have taken place, they've been really exciting and interesting for the viewers that necessarily don't know about the sport, and we've got to continue to grow it and make sure that TNT or BT, whoever it is now, continue to publish it and do work with the FA to publish all of the para sports across England, to hopefully then one day get to where I want it to be and have that National League fixtures across some broadcast 5 weekends a year.
Yeah, I've said it before on the podcast that day, that Powerchair final, as part of the Disability Cup weekend, is a complete game changer. And I would say with confidence that does more for our visibility and awareness around Powerchair football than all of the other days of the year combined, because you're hitting that mainstream audience. We have a very good following, the WFA, but being able to be on something bigger with more eyes, with more people unaware of the sport, it is a game changer. And the inquiries that we tend to get off the back of it with regards to new players seeking opportunities or clubs wanting to form as a result, it's absolutely huge. And you can tell now that players are desperate to win it because it is on a platform unlike anything else we have. And I would absolutely share that dream and aspiration of our football being televised or hitting a more mainstream audience, because it is so entertaining, and we just need someone to give us that push. We saw that in Paris. Obviously, all of the games were televised on BN Sports, and that was a game changer, truly unprecedented for Powerchair football. If we could emulate that for our National League, which I would say, with a biased hat on, is probably a better standard than the teams that we saw at the Club World Cup when you assess all 12 teams in our top division.
Yeah, 100%. And like I've always said, Sky, TNT Sport have got so many channels now. I can't see how it's hard to just cover a certain period of time across 5 weekends on one of them channels. And so, yeah, like I said before, that's one of my things I want to do before I stop playing this sport that I love.
So you were very successful in that final, and then that wrapped up the domestic season. I suppose the next major point in the calendar was that week-long camp at St George's Park with the USA national team, which for me felt like a really important moment for Powerchair football. We've seen England camps evolve massively, but this one felt different, more polished, more professional, almost mirroring the running game equivalents. The investment, the structure, the attention to detail, everything about that week showed just how far the programme has come. Having been part of the national team since its formation, you've seen that evolution firsthand, from those early camps to now hosting world-class opposition in a world-class environment. How did you find that week from your perspective, both as a captain and someone who's lived that whole journey?
It was an incredible week. Like, especially to get USA over. They're a team that obviously we've we've battled against for so many years, and they're obviously regarded very highly in the world. So to have that experience of having them along, and having two great games against them, and also our development squad having a couple of games against them, because obviously apart from the friendlies, the development squad only get obviously the home nations to play against other teams. So it was really good to see them and give them a bit of guidance against the team that they played against in the USA. So it was a fantastic week. The only downside I kind of would have liked is a bit of mixed training. I know obviously we kind of kept separate, so then when it came to the main games, we didn't know what each other were doing, etc. But it would have been nice to see kind of how they train, and it might have been good for them to see how we train. So then you could have kind of taken that back to your own countries and then worked on maybe this was good for our team, etc. But that was only not negative, but thing that I would have liked to have happened. We also had a mixed game on the Friday where it was nice to play with some of the USA team. So it was obviously given a different dimension to the week. It was a bit more friendly before. I don't think that was the Friday. I think maybe the Thursday, because we played the game against them on the Friday. We had a mixed game anyway, and that was a nice atmosphere. And like I say, play alongside players that you hadn't played with before. So yeah, the whole week as a whole was long and demanding, but also got us in the right frame of mind for obviously then when we went to Italy, we had already been a week together at St George's Park, knowing, because people look from the outside, it's not so much just on the pitch that you're with the team, you're with them pretty much 24/7, and so you've got to make sure that you're getting on well off the pitch, because obviously then that reflects the performance on it, and just being there for each other regardless of what people are going through. And so it was a good kind of a warm-up going to Italy. So yeah, it was really productive and really enjoyable, and I think everyone got a lot out of it. And obviously the performances on the pitch we're very proud of, and very pleased with how they went.
Yeah, when I've spoken about it, similar to you, I've said how important those off-court moments were when you're eating together, when you're socializing together, when you're going out to do activities in the town. It's those moments that really gel you together as a collective, and that's where you establish that trust and that them communication. Just on those two friendly fixtures, especially that second one in front of the crowd, what stood out most for you? Because I think there's only ever been one game prior to that, and that was the Republic of Ireland a couple of years ago.
Yeah. That obviously the Sunday game was the most important one, when we had friends and family come down, and it was a fantastic turnout. To obviously people to come from hours away to come and watch us play a friendly game was huge, and the atmosphere makes a difference. And that's, I think, going back to when Aspire play at St George's Park, the atmosphere is incredible, and we obviously don't necessarily get that at National League because there's not as many people. But when the crowd come and everyone's cheering, and every shot is like oohed and ahed, and we do that as fans when we go and watch the mainstream game. And so to have that at our level, and St George's Park allows people to do that, it made the massive difference. And then for us to obviously go behind and then come back and win the game was big. It was really big. It showed the mentality of the team. And again, it does come back to the supporters. Like, we want to show them that we're not just a one-trick pony that wins games playing pretty football. We want to dig in deep when we have to, and sometimes you do have to come from behind. And thankfully, Chris got us the 2 goals to get us back in front. And yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
All of that preparation, of course, led to the 2025 WFA Nations Cup in Italy, the third edition of the competition. And for England, it carried huge significance. You went in as reigning European champions, holders of the title you won in Finland back in 2019. With that came expectation, the pressure of defending a crown, and the added weight of World Cup qualification. So before we get into the games, the competition itself, what was the feeling heading into Italy? Were you excited? Was there pressure, expectation, or maybe a combination of all three?
We're very excited, to be fair. We knew, well, obviously the majority of us been to major competitions before. Obviously Ethan was the first one going, so we had to kind of give him a brief of what it's going to be like. he wasn't naive enough to think that it'd just be plain sailing. We knew we'd have bumps and stuff in the road, which happened. But yeah, going there, we were very happy. I said to everyone, I felt it was the best England team we'd ever taken to a tournament. The strengths, we could literally switch positions in every position on the pitch, and the performance wouldn't drop dramatically. So it was like we had no excuses really. So we went there very, very positive and excited to obviously start the journey once we got there.
Once the games got underway, England did what England do. Like, you handled the group stage, I'd say professionally. You got the result, you kept control. But watching on, it felt like the group never quite hit the free-flowing heights we've come to associate with England at their best. I would say the performances were solid rather than spectacular. Enough to win, but maybe not enough to showcase the sharp attacking rhythm we've seen in previous tournaments. That said, numbers tell their own story. 4 wins from 4 in the groups, 10 goals scored and just 1 conceded. It's the kind of efficiency I think most teams would dream of, and yet despite that, there was still a bit of noise around the performances, people saying England weren't quite at their usual level. From your perspective, focusing specifically on the group stage, how did it feel within the camp? Were you satisfied with the performances, or did you sense there was still another level the group hadn't quite reached yet?
I think it was exactly that. We were happy that we got the results, but the performances weren't of the level that we all want as individuals. And after every game, maybe not the Scotland game, because obviously that was quite a good result. But after every game, we went away and we thought we were trying to work out why it wasn't clicking. We would do the right things that we've been working on for months. Again, we'd adjust things. So like after the second game, after the third game, we try and adjust slight things that would maybe allow us to stretch the teams a bit more. But for some reason, it just didn't click like we wanted it to. And I know at the end of the day, the results all that matters. But for me as a captain, I felt we made individual errors, which in turn obviously led to not scoring as many. And I also felt responsible because obviously we're a really tight group. And I love all the boys individually, but for me, like, I really got on well with like Tyler and Ethan and that. And for me, I wanted to put on a performance that allowed them to get the game time that they deserve. And for one reason or another, it just didn't happen. And we never really had that. Not that we need a buffer to bring them on, because they are top-notch players and they deserve to be there as much as myself or Chris or anyone else. But we never got that buffer that Adam felt that it was right to switch it up. So I'm honoured that Adam felt that he could keep me and Chris on and to do the job. But I felt I kind of let them boys down a bit by not getting the performances in that allowed them the game time that they deserve on the pitch. And so it was a real frustration. I don't think it was from everyone, but it's just from me that I couldn't do that for them. But like I say, even when we came off the pitch, all the boys were disappointed, even though we'd won, that we hadn't won by more goals. We hadn't created chances that everyone knows that we normally put away. And we all worked together. There was no one ever pulling in the opposite direction. No one ever causing noise. Like, you could quite easily have had Ethan or Tyler saying, "Oh, I should have been on," or "Why am I not getting game time?" But no, they're all there with us, working away, trying to figure out why it just wasn't going in as much as we wanted it to. And that's a strong ability from everyone, especially, like say, those that are not on the pitch, to still believe in the squad, to still want the same thing, even though they're not getting the game time. And so that's kind of how we felt after the group stage. It was like all we needed was a couple of tweaks, and it would be that England performance that we know and know that we can perform. But again, like as we're probably going on to the knockout stages, it kind of just didn't happen.
No, I think what you've just said perfectly characterizes you as a captain, as a leader, because you're always thinking about the bigger picture, the wider squad. But to quote you, I don't think Ethan, and you could put Tyler into this conversation, they're not naive to think that their expected game time, they are, relatively speaking, on the fringes of the squad compared to some of the established players like yourself and Chris and Marcus, and their time will most certainly come. I think they would have taken so much from that competition, even not featuring as much as they wanted to. Just on the group stage, are we maybe too harsh on England sometimes? Or is this just the reality of being a top side where the standards are now so high that even winning every game isn't enough to quiet the critics?
Yeah, you could say that we've set a high enough standard that people now are expecting them results in every game. But we also got to be not naive in that other teams don't watch our games and look at how we play and try and counteract that with their formations. And then again, that's what makes a good team to then manage to still score, even if teams are man marking or just not even trying to attack, just defend. Obviously, in the mainstream game, we call it a low block, but when teams are not really coming out, they're just sitting to defend and then just smother all the chances that you try and create. But again, that's what makes a good team when you finally get the winning goals. And we did do that in the group stages. And again, we've done it in the semi-final, quarter-final. No, not quarter-final, but semi-final. And yeah, it's that's what makes a great team. But to find the great performance, you want to see goals. But yeah, teams are improving all the time, and we've got to continue to improve as well, and just find a way to still allow us to play the football we enjoy. Because don't get me wrong, the football we did play, some of the stuff was enjoyable, but the nitty gritty stuff is not enjoyable, but it has to be done sometimes. And I feel, yeah, that's kind of where we were at during that tournament.
I think my assessment on the tournament as a whole, when it came to England, I think 9 of your 11 goals came via set pieces, whereas in Sydney, I think 20% maybe were a result of set pieces. So you've gone from one extreme to the other, and no doubt you would have taken that on board. And now it's about finding the sweet spot in the middle, because we know how beneficial set pieces are to football. But that group stage, despite those question marks about performance levels, booked your semi-final meeting with Belgium, a team that has spent years away from the international spotlight, but clearly returned with purpose and intent on securing, at the very minimal, one of the World Cup tickets. What followed was a real battle, a 1-0, hard-fought, physical, tense. But again, it wasn't vintage England. It was more about grit, composure, doing the basics well under pressure. But ultimately, it was professional, it was disciplined, and enough to book a place in yet another final. Was that one of those matches where you just had to dig deep and find a way to win, regardless of how it looked on the outside?
We felt, as you watched the game back last week, and we actually had about 3 or 4 clear-cut chances in the first 10, 15 minutes of that game. And as you know, the first game's crucial. If we'd scored at least one of them chances, the whole game would have opened up and it would have been maybe vintage England. You could say that. But obviously, the longer it goes, and they did defend well, it just does become a bit of a struggle, and you kind of like not lose confidence, but you think, oh, we're going to create this chance and maybe going to miss it again, and we're just going to keep trying to do the same things and get a different result. But it was kind of like, yeah, we keep doing the same things and we will score. Don't get me wrong, 5 minutes before the end of extra time, I was looking at penalties. So I was one of the most overjoyed people when Dill managed to stick it away, and we went through to the final. But yeah, I think it is, you get an early goal in a game and it changes the whole outlook on the game. And I think maybe that's what we didn't do as much throughout this tournament, get that early goal, which brought teams onto us then. Because while it was 0-0, obviously teams can just sit in and they counter-attack us and try and look for that one goal to win them the game.
More broadly, do you think that game reflects the wider picture of the tournament, where the rest of Europe is starting to close that gap tactically and technically? Or again, was it more about England not quite reaching the level?
I think that first 15, 20 minutes, if we'd took our chances, we would have reached that level that we know we can put on. But the teams do, like I said earlier, they do look at the way we play and try and counteract that with different formations. And yeah, Belgium done it really well. They always had someone on the edge of the box. So me, or if it was Chris in front of me, couldn't do much because they had a player on us. So it kind of then became me and Chris as a back two, and then it came the two wingers doing their job. But the chances that we did have, we just didn't take, and obviously then became a struggle. But definitely the teams around the world are improving, and that's because of the facilities that they have available to them now. YouTube, constant people clips that they put on Facebook, etc., which is a great thing. We don't want teams getting smashed 10-0 every game. It doesn't look good for the sport. It doesn't look good for the country. And so to see them improve, and even like Italy, for instance, I personally have never played against them before. A lot of the countries have never seen them before. And so for them to come into this tournament that they're hosting, obviously major pressure on them anyway from their fans, and to see them put on the result that they beat Denmark at the beginning kind of gave everyone a like, oh, maybe we need to take these guys seriously. And then obviously they took the lead against us as well. So it was kind of, yeah, it's great to see countries developing and progressing really well. And obviously one day we're going to have a bigger World Cup than just 10 teams, hopefully. And yeah, it would allow all these countries to showcase what they're good at.
Talk to me about that Italy fixture. Was that the best atmosphere or the loudest atmosphere you've ever played in?
Yeah, it was very loud. And yeah, we know how passionate Italians are, and in South American fans they're very loud and passionate as well. And yeah, when they went 1-0 up, it was kind of like we couldn't even hear ourselves think. It was that loud in the place. And when you try to talk to each other on the pitch, it's also hard because you can't hear what each other's saying. But again, it's what we crave for. It's what we've always wanted as Powerchair players, to have the atmosphere, to feel like the elite players in the running game feel like. So I would never ever tell people to be quiet so we can hear each other on the pitch. I want as much loudness and noise and fans going at each other as much as we can in the sport, because that's what adds to this viewing public of how great our sport is.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I mean, I did highlight Italy prior to the competition taking place as to their fans being incredibly passionate, but they hit a level that I didn't think was possible. And on commentary, sitting 30 centimetres, a metre away from Greg Baxter, we couldn't hear ourselves. We had to raise our voices just to get above the noise, and we loved it. We craved it, and we wanted that to be the same for every single game. Because everything feeds off that energy, whether it's the players, whether it's other fans, whether it's people watching around the world. It translates so well. So full credit to Italy. Denmark were equally as impressive, and now the baton passes to Buenos Aires, where 10 nations will have to emulate what we saw in Italy, because for me personally, it was the best atmosphere across a competition I've ever attended.
100%. And the tournament itself was the best tournament I've ever attended. Maybe the opening and closing ceremony could have been a little bit shorter, but apart from that, the ceremonies themselves were incredible. Honestly, the stadium was perfect size for the teams that were attending, the people that were attending, because obviously you can kind of compare it to Australia, where I think you covered it in the podcast with Greg about how great the venue was, but because there were so many seats, it made the place look empty. Whereas where this venue was in Italy, it was kind of like the perfect amount of seats. You obviously could have had a few more people in there that made it build it up a bit, but it was perfect for the amount of viewing public that were there. So it didn't make it look like it was derelict in the place.
No.
So yeah, everything about that Italy thing was tremendous, and hats off to them for hosting that tournament.
No, and these are examples that will pass now to future hosts of Powerchair football competitions. I don't disagree. I think the opening ceremony and closing ceremony went on for far longer than they should have, or at least taking the players out of that situation and making it something for the fans. And yes, I would always favour a smaller venue that could accommodate less people, but would appear fuller. And I would like to see Argentina or the next Euros host to do a lot of outreach work with the communities to get new eyes into the sport. We saw it a little bit in Sydney, where they got schools and universities in, and certain days there was hundreds, if not thousands, of people within the key centre, and it's so important. So I don't disagree. Let's progress, because that semi-final win over Belgium booked England's spot in the final, and once again it was France waiting on the other side. It's a fixture that's almost come to define the modern era of international powerchair football. We've seen it time and time again at the business end of major tournaments. Ireland 2014, Finland 2019, Australia 2023, and now Italy in 2025. And when you consider that France have lost just one competitive game in that entire period, being to England in 2019, it's fair to say that the odds were stacked against you heading into this one. Once the game got started and France settled, it never looked like it was going England's way. They got their goal, and from that point onwards, you could see they'd almost learned from the mistakes they made, and perhaps naivety of previous finals in Finland and Australia, where they'd allow England space and opportunities to claw their way back. This time, though, they just managed the game. They locked it up through Momo's dribbling play, which completely negated England's ability to build rhythm or play through the lines. Brian Weiss, operating quite uniquely in this competition as the most defensive goalkeeper. I don't think he barely left the French half. He just sat in, protected that lead, and they saw it out until the final whistle. From an England perspective, that must have been incredibly frustrating. The quality in this squad is clear, but it felt like France managed to just suffocate that rhythm, that fluidity England are known for. When you look back now with a little bit of distance, do you see that final as France being just on another level, or do you feel England just weren't able to reach their own standards?
So we went into that game with a tactic and a way of playing, and if we'd done this right, this would happen, etc. You try and predict what they do, and then we can counteract it that way. Obviously, the game plan didn't really work. Obviously, was trying to match Momo up with Marcus, and then get the ball away from Momo, and we can then start playing the passing football that we like doing. And I think we managed to get it out once or twice in the first 5-10 minutes, but after that, there was just wave after wave of attack from them, and it is hard to defend. They hit the ball so powerful. Obviously, we've seen, during the group stage, Brian take a kick and come up on two wheels. It's kind of like, how do you defend against power like that? And it was kind of like, people could see that the goal was maybe coming, but obviously, as a defence, me and Chris felt that we were comfortable throughout the game, and it was just a shame the goal that we did concede. It wasn't obviously great on our defending. I don't blame Chris at all. Obviously, he blames himself, but he's done so many great things for us throughout the years and throughout that tournament. So I'd never hold him in regards to us losing that game. It was a team effort that we just wasn't good enough on the day. And then when you're 1-0 down and you're coming up against Momo, who is, I would admit, the best player in the world currently, to get the ball off him is something that not many people ever do. And so when he's not looking to pass at all, and he's just trying to obviously entice you into then beat you in a dribble, it is very hard and very frustrating. And obviously you can tell towards the end I was getting quite frustrated, and people obviously, probably me included, I probably should have got sent off. But Robbie done me a massive favour. And yeah, we just couldn't get it off him. And like I said, when it is 1-0 down, he doesn't need to pass. And like you said, they've learnt from the previous encounters with us. One little thing as well, Brian did say after the game that someone had just broke his controller before the game. Whether he was accusing us or not, I wasn't too sure. But he said that's the reason why he never got involved so much in the match, because the settings on his chair weren't the settings that he'd been playing out for the whole tournament. So whether or not he was just saying that as a reason why he never got really involved, I don't know. But
I do know that he was having his chair was being taken apart minutes before the final took place. I was down in the lobby wondering why it was split in two.
Yeah, so that's what he said to us, and obviously I think he was kind of accusing us of doing the damage, but as far as I'm aware, we wouldn't do such a thing, and no one did do anything. But if it was, then it kind of played not in our hands, because it didn't allow him to come out and give us space. So
of course,
anyway, they deserve to win. Hats off to them for putting on a great performance throughout the whole tournament and the final. We just weren't good enough on this occasion.
Having faced France so many times in major tournaments, what is it that makes them so difficult to break down? Is it tactical? Is it psychological? Or is it simply Momo Galame being unplayable?
I think it's Momo Galame being unplayable, to be honest, because I think tactically we are a better team than them. If you look from the outset, probably apart from when they've tried to play 4 out this tournament, you would never say they've got actually any tactics. They're kind of off the cuff kind of team. The power they generate, like I said earlier, from a dead ball, but also in a game, is unmatchable, really. Whether it's down to whatever they've done to the chairs or just the skills. I've played with Momo in a friendly tournament before, and I've seen the quality he has. I think sometimes you see in the running game, they take a corner and they can bend it like from the corner flag into the goal. And I've seen him do that in his chair, and it's kind of like, wow, he is actually a fantastic player, and you do have to give it to him. Like, as much as we all debate who is the best, he is the best, and the things that he can do on dead balls, on the pitch with the ball, I don't think there's much he can't do. Maybe we should stick him in goal and see if he can defend. But
don't say that, because that just gives me Vietnam flashbacks to the World Cup final on penalties.
Oh yeah, that's true. He couldn't save my pen. So
you could have 2 goalkeepers in goal and they wouldn't have saved that penalty. But I know I don't disagree. Some of the things that he does on a Powerchair football court are just mind blowing, and often I'm left speechless. And when you're a commentator that has to talk through things and connect with the audience, it's not overly ideal. When I don't know how to summarize it, I don't know how to explain it, because some of the things just seem to defy physics. One of his goals against Italy was just unbelievable. I've never seen someone squeeze a ball in a gap that's smaller than the ball itself. But that is what defines great players. They perform in the great moments. And now I have no doubt at the top of your list for the next 12 months, which we'll get onto in a little bit, certainly when you're in it with England, is trying to get past someone whose sole purpose is to negate your quality.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we need to work out. We almost managed it in the final in the World Cup. Obviously just weren't good enough this time. Hopefully next time we get the better of him.
Do matches like that, where the margins are so fine, motivate you to come back stronger, or do they take time to process before you can properly refocus?
It does give you, obviously, motivation to come back stronger. But again, I think for us as an England team, it's the tactical side of things that we need to get right, because we know we have the quality on the pitch. As a 4, we're a far better 4 than they've got on the pitch. Obviously they've got fantastic 2 players in the middle, but their wingers are nowhere near as good as ours, but it's what they do as a team. And so we've got to be right with our tactics. And if we get that right, the players will then do their jobs, and allow the tactics will allow them to do their jobs, and we'll score the goals. But obviously we've tried for many years, many different tactics, and we've only got it right once. Again, that was on penalties as well. So hopefully it's the future next year. we'll get it right and we'll come away triumphant.
We will get onto that, no doubt. I want to now progress onto something I think is really important and doesn't necessarily get spoken about much in Powerchair football, and that's dealing with criticism and scrutiny. Because across the competition, especially during that final, there was a lot of noise. There was criticism, there was opinions, there was analysis, some fair, some maybe less so. And to my recollection, I'm sure you can correct me, it was the first time we've really seen that level of public scrutiny around England and its players in this sport. You've been at the heart of the national setup since its earliest days. You've lived through the highest highs and the toughest lows. How do you deal with that kind of criticism personally when people question maybe your selection, inclusion, or tactics?
It was like, obviously people have seen my Facebook post that I put afterwards. I actually enjoyed it, but I wanted to highlight it because for me, I know when I've had a good game and when I've not had a good game. And it's okay for people from the outside saying, oh, bring off John, put Tyler on, or bring off Chris, put Ethan on. What you can't do is take into account the time and the place. And in a final, your feelings and stuff are not based on, like, your ability is great, but you've got to be there and know how to deal with the occasion. It's not as easy as just like turn up to National League and playing a team at National League. It's the pressure's so much more. And what I wanted to highlight in my Facebook thing was, I don't mind it. Like, I can take any criticism that anyone puts to me, and I'll listen. And if it's constructive criticism, I'll take it on board and learn from it. But what I wanted was for the younger players, or like Dan, like Tyler, the younger boys, that when you get to England level, you have to expect praise and criticism, because people want to be in your position. People would love to play for England. And when they're seeing you not do what you do week in, week out in National League, or what they know you can do best, they're going to voice their opinion. And they've got every right to, because they're watching, whether it's online or whether it's actually at the ground or the court. They've got their right to do that. But it's just highlighting the fact that don't be naive when you get to elite level, that things like that happen. And it's kind of just to highlight, especially to Dan, obviously he's so young, that Dan will get criticism. And Dan's got to obviously see how I deal with it, see how other players deal with it, and then take that on board whenever it comes. He's so good, that boy, that I doubt any criticism will ever come his way. But it's more for just the upcoming generation, that we have got so many great players in this country that they will be young when they start in this England team. And so when they do, they will have to accept that people will praise them. People close to them will never put them down. They'll never tell them when they've had a bad game, because that's what a teammate does. That's what a parent does. But people who don't really necessarily have an affiliation with you will give their point of view, and whether it's negative or positive, you have to take that. And for me, it shows how far our game's come, that people from the outside are really wanting to invest their opinion on the game that's been taking place. And back in the day, we hardly had anyone watching. So when there's people watching now from across the world giving their view on performances, I think it's great for the progress of our sport. It's just sometimes how people put it across that maybe not nice from the outside. But
exactly that. I mean, there's a line, isn't there? There is opinions, there is analysis, there is constructive criticism, and then there's stuff beyond that, stuff that doesn't need mentioning, because these are people that don't see behind the scenes, don't see how much work is going on to improve, to develop, to unpick the likes of France. But I characterize it very similarly to yourself, in that it's almost a badge of honor, because there's pressure and expectation, because you're representing a nation. If there wasn't anyone giving their opinions or tuning in to watch, it shows you haven't got that investment in you. But being able to see the analysis, the criticism, the opinions, it's almost nice, because so many people are wanting you to do well, and like you said, so many people want to be where you are.
Exactly that, and it will happen. It will continue to happen, and we just have to deal with it. And hopefully, like, maybe not for me, but when people criticize other people, they put it across that it can be constructive and they can learn from whatever they're talking about, not just saying, oh, they're crap or bring them off, they're useless, etc. So yeah, I'm hoping that whoever listens to this that might have commented about me or anyone else, that can put it in a nicer way to other people, and so they can learn rather than just get criticized.
No, perfectly said. Let's now close that chapter, because I'm sure it was as heartbreaking for you as it was for me. I was devastated by that final loss, but we get to go again now, because the 25-26 season feels like one of the most fascinating campaigns we've had in years. There's a real buzz heading into it. The league's never been stronger. The quality across the board continues to rise, and the level of competition is genuinely elite. I always say world leading. And for you on a personal level, it's another huge season for both club and country. You'll be competing on 4 fronts with Aspire: the Premiership, the WFA Cup, both the West Midlands Regional League and the South East Regional League, all while balancing England duties in the build-up to the 2026 World Cup in Argentina. When you look at the Premiership this season, I think most people would agree it's shaping up to be an intriguing race at the top, with the likes of yourself, Leeds, Teesside, potentially West Brom, 4 teams of elite players, all with title ambitions, behind which there's a strong chasing pack too, the likes of Greenbank, Newcastle, Villa, all capable of taking points off anyone on their day, and enough quality to influence the title picture as a whole. You've had an incredibly busy pre-season since returning from Italy, with plenty going on at club level. How has that period been for Aspire, and what has been involved in the build-up heading into game week 1?
Been absolutely manic. When I signed up to the West Midlands League, I was like, this would be great. We'll be playing hard teams week in, obviously, whenever we play. And then when you wake up on a Sunday morning at 6 o'clock to drive all the way to Birmingham, you think, why have I done this? But to be honest, like I said, we've had so many games with our friendly tournament, with our regional league, with the Midlands League. It's been really helpful and really useful for getting players on the pitch against, like, for me, obviously, I love to get players on the pitch and play. And sometimes at National League, it's not always easy playing the team, like players like Sally, for instance. Sally's always there. She gives 100%. But in them games against West Brom, etc., at Leeds, it's hard to get on the pitch sometimes. And when I've involved now in the Midlands League, it's allowed that to happen. And it's given them experience against teams, playing against Chris, playing against Marcus, that they maybe not have had at National League. And that's kind of why I've done it. And also, as we know, our South League is not the strongest. And so it's quite hard to get up for it and obviously put in the results. So allowing us to go to the Midlands League and play, like obviously last Sunday we played Chris, we played Marcus, and we played obviously Frossels as well. It was a real good build up coming up to the National League now, and obviously the results have gone our way as well, which helps. But again, we've played some great football throughout that period. We've had 2 Midlands Leagues now, and I think we've played 6 games. We've won 5, drew 1. And also we've had our Southern League, which we've won 2 games out of 2. And we obviously won our inaugural Madeline Still trophy as well, which was a great day by everyone. So normally where we'd have training sessions, to have actual matches, you learn a far much more than a training session. It's great when you're doing like dummy runs when no one's actually there, but to play certain ways and work on certain things during a game, it helps so much more. So we're going into the league with the best ever preparation we've ever had throughout the years at Aspire have been formed. So we've got no excuses to be rusty. Whether that's a bad thing or not, we've got nothing to blame. We're only reflecting on performances this weekend, but we're really looking forward to it. Like I say, we played some lovely stuff at last weekend, so hopefully we can bring that into this weekend and show what we mean for the season ahead.
Teesside obviously come in as reigning champions. Are they still the benchmark everyone's chasing, or do you feel the gap has closed heading into this campaign?
We feel we've progressed. They were our kryptonite last season. Obviously, they smashed us twice. So for us, we got to make sure that we win that game. And obviously, we've got them this weekend. So that for us will be a benchmark of where we're actually at. Whether we can compete with what I said was the greatest team last season, as everyone else has said, they played some great stuff. And so we've got to make sure that we do the right things and come away victorious in that game. And then that kind of, I know that's the last game of the weekend, but that for us is where we'll show where we're actually at for this season. Obviously not taking the other games for granted, but we would feel on paper that we could win them. The Teesside game, obviously we feel we could win, but only if we do the right things and not let silly mistakes happen like they did last season.
And focusing on Leeds, because they've brought in two of your England teammates in Dylan Kelso and Ethan Fisher. How much does that raise the bar for them? Because for many, they've now gone from contender to title favourite.
They are great players. Great players. Sometimes great players don't always gel as much as you want them to. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's not going to be the case in this, but we need to give them time. It's not going to happen straight away, and I think they're not naive enough to think that they're going to blow everyone away weekend after weekend. It's going to take time, and they're obviously playing a new system. As we know, at England, it's hard. You get caught out sometimes if the balance isn't right. But individually, they're great players, and so they've got all of the ingredients to make a great team. Dylan's obviously taken on the captain's armband, and he's got a great head on his shoulders. So I can't see why he can't drive them to meet the standards that they obviously want game after game. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see how they go. I feel that they've got to be in the lead to win the games. I feel if they go 1-0 down, I think they're going to struggle. I hope that don't bite me in the arse if we go 1-0 up at National League, but as long as they're flowing and on a level playing field, they'll win the game. But come from behind, I think they might, I don't know. Like I say, could bite me in the arse, but I wish them all the best for this season. I look forward to seeing them play, and they've got great players, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, very intriguing. It's also been an interesting summer for Aspire too, with some key changes across the group. Obviously, Rosie Hodgson has joined Villa Rockets. Bobby Williams has stepped away after an outstanding career.
Yeah.
And they are two players who have been huge in shaping Aspire's identity, both on and off the court. In their place, you brought in Rich George, a player with great experience and understanding of the game, even if he hasn't competed at this level for a few seasons. When you look at this group as a whole, the mix of youth and experience, the personalities, the drive, how do you assess the squad going into this campaign?
It's in a great shape, to be honest. Obviously, it's the first season ever that I've only taken 7 to nationals. I've always had 8. So for me, it's kind of a little bit of a relief that I don't have to try and juggle 4 subs. But the team have bonded so well, obviously, since Rich has come in. Obviously, a new dynamic, obviously, Rosie leaving and Rich coming in. Like you said, Rich hasn't played for 3 years, so it's kind of fresh to Rich. Obviously, he's still got the mindset of how to play the game and that, but obviously the tactical and technical side of him's got to come back. So we're working with him within games and that training to get up to the standard that we need for Aspire. But we know it's not going to happen overnight, so that's going to be work in progress, and Rich knows that. As a team, we're in a great shape. We've played some good football in pre-season, and we're really looking forward to it. We, like I touched on earlier, John Dixon's come on so much now, and I think it's not going to be a lie that him and Dan are going to mainly be my starting wingers. So to allow that to kind of be an obvious decision, it allows them to not necessarily worry about their spots. Don't get me wrong, if players like Jordan, Sally and Rich are playing well, they're going to start the game. But on paper, my strongest wingers are Dan and Jon. So as long as they click, we play some lovely football. And it's going to be really interesting to see how we all get on this season. And like I say, in pre-season, Sally and Jordan and Rich have all contributed really well. So it could give me a headache throughout the season, but that's one that I'm looking forward to. So yeah, it's going to be a good season ahead for us.
I want to talk about John Dixon because he's become such a powerful example of what's possible when a player truly commits to developing their game and maximising their potential. He's always been a technically sound, reliable player who you could trust to do his job. But last season just felt different. Something clicked. It was as if all of those years of consistency and learning suddenly met confidence and belief. And from there, his game just exploded. What impressed me most is how complete his transformation has been. He's not just improved one or two aspects. His decision-making, his positioning, his use of space, his composure have all gone up a level. And I don't think it's unfair to say he's gone from a good player to a game changer. From your perspective, what's been behind that transformation? What's allowed Jon to elevate his game so dramatically? And how important is he now to the way Aspire play?
In regards to important, he's one of our main players now. We rely on him quite a lot. Regarding his progression, all I ever ask for anyone that comes to Aspire is to come with an open mind and listen and take on board the stuff that I say and what teammates around you say. He's coming to Aspire, obviously managed by me and playing alongside one of the best wingers in the world. So why would you not listen to players like Dan, players like me that give you advice? And it's all right listening, but it's actually then going away and putting into practice. Jon is one of them that he won't just listen and not take it in. He'll take it in, he'll go away, he'll work on it, he'll watch games back. He's obviously coaching Saracens as well, so he's constantly in a chair. It's his determination. And don't get me wrong, his family, he's got a great network around him. His mum, his dad, his nan and granddad, they support him all the way. And so having that, the foundation of that in the background allows him to do what he does best. And that is listen, learn, and then put it into practice when he gets the chance. And he never moans, he never argues, he just gets on with it. And like you say, that's shown. And for me, the ball that he done in that cup final to Dan showed how far he's actually come on. Like, that was incredible ball. And he'd done a few of them in the Club World Cup as well. And he adds a different dimension to our game with everything that he contributes. So yeah, he's such a great guy, great talent, and definitely one for the future. I'm hoping he'll be on the knocking door of the development squad before too long.
If he keeps playing the way he has over particularly the last 3 or 4 months, there's no reason why he can't be in that conversation, because the Club World Cup and that cup final particularly, he was sensational. Let's now go to Dan McClellan, star boy, because still only 16 years old, yet already one of the most influential players in the country. I discussed it on the last episode. But when you actually stop and list the competitions he's already played in, it's ridiculous. The National League Premiership and Championship, the WFA Cup, various regional leagues, Champions Cup, Club World Cup, Home Nations, European Championships, and of course the World Cup. He has competed in every competition possible with club and country, and every single season he seems to evolve, adding new layers to his game, new maturity, new levels of consistency that you just don't see from players his age. I've said before that he almost feels like your little project. Of course, everything he's achieved is down to his own ability, his intelligence, his drive, as you just referenced, to do with John Dixon. But your mentorship has clearly played a big part in shaping that journey. There's a trust and understanding between you that feels unique. And it's been a massive factor in how quickly he's developed. And it's frightening to think what he could become in another 10 or 15 years if he keeps progressing at this rate. Out of curiosity, were you playing at 16?
No, not at all.
You wasn't?
Powerchair football was even in this country at that point.
So what age did you start Powerchair football?
2002 Aspire was formed, so let's do the maths. 2002 is when I started playing, basically, because I was played for that. So that's what, 13 years ago? 23 years ago.
23 years ago.
God, so yes, I would be 16.
It's
38, I was 38 last week, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I know equipment has evolved, the game has developed tactically, but even so, it's hard not to look at Dan and think we're watching someone with the potential to reach generational levels.
Oh, mate, 100%. This boy, the man, like, he is incredible. I've never, ever played with someone who is so intelligent, just can do anything. Like, at regionals on Sunday, we played West Brom first game, and I just thought, just go out there and do it, Dan. So I just sat on the bench for the first 20 minutes and just watching control that game, do what I do. And it's like, he's doing that at 16, and it's just, I'm so proud of him. And I just, obviously I can't, everyone would see it as biased from what I say about him, but he is just the most amazing lad. The quality he has in everything he does, whether it's on the pitch, whether it's off the pitch. I just not got enough words to say about what he is, and he will be England's captain in the future. He will be whatever he wants to be, whether he wants to be a middleman or a winger. He can do whatever he wants because the boy has endless talents. Like I said, I don't know what else to say about him other than he is gonna be the best player in the world before too long, because there is nothing he cannot do. And as for me, like, I've given him vice captain this year. He may have had it for unofficially for the last few years, but he's officially our vice captain this year, and I'm more than happy to give him the captain's armband whenever he wants it, because he deserves it. And I just want to see him push to the next level now, and he can do that. So whenever he's ready for it, I'm happy to hand it over to him.
Yeah, I never get tired about talking about him, his ability, his personality. It's remarkable that only 6-7 years ago, I remember meeting him at where he supported a Cambridge Powerchair Football taster session, and to see his development through the various teams, Muscle Warriors and now Aspire, to now leading his country. He is the heir to your throne in the centre for England, I have no doubt. But that versatility of being able to be a world-class winger, a world-leading winger, bodes so well for club and country. So I just wanted to squeeze that bit in there because, my God, he's impressive. In the Premiership predictions episode, I put you both down as the potential players of the season because, irrelevant of his age, he's in contention for any and every award. It wouldn't surprise me if he was player of the season, young player of the season, top goal scorer, top assist provider. He can do everything.
100%. I had a good season this season as well, but I'd rather he gets top spot and I get second.
Just zooming out a little bit, with so many competitions in the calendar, how do you manage the mental and physical load? Do you still approach every competition with the same all or nothing mentality? Or does experience tell you need to be a little bit more pragmatic, maybe prioritizing energy for certain competitions across the season?
No, for me, I play this sport to win things. And any sport, any game I go into, I want to win. And there's no priorities for me. I want to achieve everything before I finish playing, and Obviously, I've done the league and stuff, but the World Cup obviously is massive for me. I need to win that before I give up. But like you said, there's four competitions up for grabs this year, and we want to win them all. We don't want to come second again or third at last season. That's not what we are about, and we're going to be giving that our all. And especially me, like I just said, I need a really good season this year because last year I didn't feel that I played my best football, and so I need to prove to myself that I can still perform week in, week out in games at National League, and grab a few more goals as well because I'm struggling with the goal tally recently. It's drying up.
Yeah, I was in my research for this episode. I've gone back over the last 2 or 3 years. You've just about got into double digits.
No, it's disgraceful, isn't it?
For your level, it's not the best, and we've only tracked assists properly across the last season or two, so I don't have the data on that. But what you lack in goal scoring, you make up for in creativity. So I can let you off. Let's assume Aspire have a really good season, competing across those 4 competitions. All roads lead to Buenos Aires, the 2026 Fit for Powerchair Football World Cup. It's the one major trophy England have yet to lift. And after the disappointment of Italy, it feels like the perfect chance to put things right, to almost show the world what this group is truly capable of, and maybe finish a story that's been building for well over a decade. Once the domestic season wraps up in June, there's likely to be a significant break before the World Cup kicks off in October, around 4 months without competitive football. Because I'd imagine with the logistics involved, just as was the case for the 2023 World Cup, transporting equipment, preparing the squad, we probably won't see a National League Premiership weekend before the tournament. So with that brings its own challenges, keeping sharp, maintaining rhythm, managing fitness without regular league football. Because those moments, those months could be the difference between arriving in Argentina ready to perform or still searching for that final edge. And when you look at the lineup, it's shaping up to be, without question, the most competitive World Cup we've ever seen. France, England, Italy, Belgium, Denmark, Australia, Japan, and Argentina are already confirmed, with the USA and Uruguay expected to complete the lineup following the America's Cup in a couple of weeks. So 10 nations, all capable of impressing, all with world-class players and real pedigree. Talk me through what the next year looks like from your point of view, the training camps, the preparation, the focus areas. How do you ensure this group are peak at exactly the right time?
Obviously, like I say, I hope everyone has the greatest seasons ahead. Obviously, we don't know the squad that would necessarily go next year, but if you base it on the current squads, after the league's finished, we just got to make sure that we have plenty of contact time together, whether it's training camp. I'm sure we'll have some training camps obviously building up. I don't know what the FA have in mind as regards to maybe some friendlies prior to the World Cup. So that would be good if we get some of them in the diary prior to going. But it's just making sure that we do switch off, because after a heavy schedule of football, it is nice to put your wheelchair in the shed for a few weeks and just have a downtime. Obviously, I kind of got to balance it as well. Obviously, I work every day during the week, and obviously my family as well, my daughter and my wife. So it's making sure that I have that time as well as football time. So it's quite manic, 'cause even when it is away from football, you still obviously got. I'm a manager at work, so I'm having to manage all that and stuff. So it's busy. So it is trying to get yourself in the right frame of mind to then be refreshed, ready to go to the World Cup. Because it's very exciting, obviously, the few weeks prior to the World Cup. But once you get there, you don't want to be drained from, I don't know, work or home life or just football in itself. So you've got to make sure you balance that. And it's just finding the right balance between, let's say, not having a football and make sure you're in a good place on the pitch to go to the World Cup. So it's kind of, we've got now until then to work on that. How personally I'm going to do that, but as a group we need to do it as well.
And on that personal level, after everything you've achieved in the sport, how do you feel heading into Argentina? Because for you, this must be the one that still burns brightest, the one trophy left to chase.
Yeah, it's massive. It is for me the one that keeps getting away. I've been in that final a couple of times now, and it's hard when you don't get the result you want. But each year we go back with a better team than we've had before. So if we take the team that we've got now to the World Cup next year, I would still expect us to walk away with the trophy. And so yeah, it is that one that I crave, and I will win it before I stop playing. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I could be like 60 before I win it. But I really need to win that tournament, just to say that I've won everything, and then I'll be happy, and then I can play for fun rather than play to win the tournaments. But it's a huge occasion for me personally, and obviously anyone in the England squad going to a World Cup is a major thing for them. But a lot of the other lads in the squad have got a lot of time on their side, whereas myself and Chris, we're coming towards the back end of our careers.
I've said it many times before. I don't ever want to see the day you step away from the game, because for me, Powerchair football is Jon Bolding and Jon Bolding is Powerchair football. But with that said, is this World Cup the final piece of the puzzle for you, or are there still ambitions and goals you'd like to tick off before you do eventually call it a day?
It is obviously trophy-wise, it's definitely the final piece of the puzzle. For me, and Dean Williams knows this, I want us to host that Euros in 2030. That for me will be what I've always wanted. Like, so obviously then by that point, obviously I've won the World Cup, to then host a home tournament where we know we've got the most fans that will turn up to any football event. We can see that at St George's Park. So to then have the chance to host a tournament which allows countries to come and experience what we experience on a yearly basis in George's Park, and what obviously the Americans experienced when they came over, it will just be the pinnacle of the sport in this country. I know we've got the best people in this country to host such tournament. We've got the players, we've got the fans that could do amazing things for countries that come over, and it will really showcase our sport in this country to everyone else that comes over. So for me, if I can list 3 things before I stop playing, is win that World Cup, host the tournament in this country, and then get the TV deal for National League for at least one season.
It's all mapped out. I will add you have to win the Club World Cup before that, right of Paris. I think, assuming it's on a 4-year cycle, the next one will be 2029. So maintaining your levels with Aspire up until then to ensure you right the wrong of Paris.
Yeah, that's that. Like, it's not one of our top priorities, but it is obviously, yeah, I will have to tick that off as well.
So it's exciting times ahead, but like you, I think top of the wish list will always be to host a major international competition, whether that's the Euros, whether that's a World Cup. We saw what it meant to Italy and how they fed off that energy, and how it's probably going to be a game changer for the legacy in that country. What it could do for us could be absolutely transformational. So I share that goal and aspiration completely. Jon, it's been brilliant to go through all that with you. The highs, the challenges, everything still to come. It's easy to get caught up in the results and trophy, but what stands out for you is the consistency, the professionalism, that relentless hunger you've shown for more than 2 decades at the very top of the sport. You've seen it evolve, you've helped shape it, and yet you still approach every season like it's your first, and that says everything about who you are as a competitor and a leader. Before we wrap up, I've got a few quick fire questions to finish on. So if you don't mind, short, instinctive answers, no overthinking. You ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Toughest match you've ever played in?
That Champions League final against Momo and Upsilon. It was we got lucky, but we got the result.
The most talented teammate you've ever shared the court with?
Dan McClellan.
The most underrated player you've ever played alongside?
Chris Gordon, because people don't realise the job that he has to do.
I agree completely with that. He does not get the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
If you could relive one moment from your career, what would it be?
You get me emotional. Winning that Euros final, my dad coming on the pitch.
He'd be so proud. If you could change one thing about Powerchair football on or off the court, what would it be?
The 2-on-1 rule. I want it to be in favour of the attacking team. I don't want, unless the defending team touches the ball, I don't want a 2-on-1 to be given.
That's fair. Your international dream team, 1 player per nation excluding England, 4 players, go.
We go Brian.
Yep.
We go Zagarelli.
Yep.
We go for excluding England, yeah?
Excluding England, yeah.
We go for Broomstick. Our boy USA.
Got Belgium, you got Uruguay, Australia.
Oh yeah, our boy Fran. Uruguay.
Francisco Wild.
Yeah.
He's a menace, isn't he?
He's a boy, yeah. It's just, he's great talent. Really good.
No, it's a nice team.
Yeah.
And finally, if you could play a match anywhere in the world, in any stadium, where would it be?
It would have to be at Wembley.
Nice. I appreciate you not picking the Emirates.
I was close, but I thought we'd get a bigger capacity at Wembley.
Before long, we'll be selling out stadiums.
100%.
John, that wraps up episode 37 of the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football Podcast. I want to say a massive thank you to yourself, Jon Bolding, for your time, your insight, and as always, MK Battery, who are powering this podcast and every WFA broadcast across the 25-26 season. The Slater and Gordon Premiership kicks off October 25th at the Lee Westwood Sports Centre, and every match will be streamed live on the WFA's YouTube channel. From us all here at the 2-on-1 Powerchair Football Podcast, thank you for listening. We'll see you very soon for game week 1. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.